Trump wants to annex Canada, invade Greenland, and reclaim the Panama Canal. Why is he collecting allies like Pokemon cards? Why the obsession with allies instead of enemies? And why these three places in particular? To understand all that, we first need to explain Trump's mindset.
I wanted Greenland, but the snow's too white, like golf balls, so I said, make Greenland orange like me.
Wouldn't it be easier to make the golf balls orange like you?
No.
It's no secret Trump admires Putin and Kim Jong-un, and he picks fights with US allies and insults them. So what's up with that? Well, it's not random. It's actually a part of how he sees the world. But before we dive into his worldview, we need to answer the question, is Trump a Russian asset?
This channel is a total disaster. Low effort, low energy, worse than CNN, and that's saying something. Just whining and weak takes. And don't even think about subscribing to this channel, folks. I wouldn't even like this video. Sad.
Yikes. Anyway, back to whether he's secretly working for Russia. In March 2025, two retired Russian intelligence officers claimed Trump was compromised during a 1987 trip to the Soviet Union and was given the codename Krasnov. Honestly, that would explain a lot. But the problem is, there is no solid proof. And after years of investigation, even the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee didn't find conclusive proof that Trump or his campaign colluded with Russian officials during the 2016 election. I mean, sure, some of his moves definitely helped Russia, but that's not the same as being a secret agent. Also, some analysts writing on foreign policy argue there's just not enough proof to call him a Russian asset.
Foreign whatever. Sounds like a failed IKEA shelf. Probably full of losers and...
We literally just said you're not a Russian asset.
Yeah, tremendous journalism. Very smart. Top shelf. Maybe not IKEA shelf. Maybe Trump shelf. Still no steakhouse though, so needs work.
So if he's not a puppet, what's going on? According to journalists Susan Glasser and Peter Baker, authors of The Divider: Trump in the White House, Trump sees the world like one giant bad business deal. He thinks America is getting scammed, allies are freeloaders, global institutions are money pits, and he's fueled by beef and obsessed with transactions. But is that true? Well, in short, no. I mean, yeah, the US pays a lot into global institutions, but not because everyone else is freeloading. It's because the US is huge. The US covers about 22% of the UN's budget, was the top donor at the WHO until Trump pulled out in 2020 and again in 2025. And contributes to the WTO based on economic size, not charity. It also foots around 70% of NATO's total budget. By the way, if you want to dive deeper into that, I made a whole video called "A NATO Without the US, Europe's Worst Nightmare." Check the eye somewhere on the screen or the link in the description.
You keep saying, click the little eye on the screen. I don't see it. Maybe Barron sees it. He's a computer genius, you know. I leave the room, come back, the computer's on, genius. Unbelievable kid. Still don't see the eye though. Total scam, probably rigged.
So yeah, US contributions are in line with this economic footprint. Not because it's doing it out of the goodness of its heart, but because it's projecting soft power all over the world. And honestly, it can afford to do that. But here's the thing, Trump doesn't see it that way. To him, it's not strategy, it's a ripoff. Because in his mind, no profit means bad deal. That's the business guy brain at work. He treats international relationships like real estate. If you're paying in, you expect control. If you're not getting clear returns, it's a scam. So when the US puts money into the UN, WHO, WTO, or NATO, and doesn't walk away with a win, Trump sees it as America getting ripped off. That's why he labeled these institutions scams. But in reality, they're not about turning a profit. They're about long-term influence, helping the US shape global rules, build alliances, and project power. And whether or not you like the US foreign policy, that's how global influence works.
We're losing all our influence. Please stop.
Influence? I can't golf with influence. Show me the cash or I'm putting NATO on Airbnb.
What are you even saying?
I'm saying 5 stars, great location, shared nuclear umbrella, no pets.
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Great, right?
Now, does Trump hate the West? Well, not exactly. He's not anti-Western civilization. He just defines it differently. To him, it's not about democracy or human rights. It's about power and domination. He sees Western greatness through the lens of empires, segregation, and even the Crusades as symbols of strength and order. In his eyes, the West isn't about cooperation. It's about conquest and control. Not teaming up, just pure winning. Even John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, backs that up. In his book, The Room Where It Happened, Bolton wrote that Trump didn't care about defending democracy. He just wanted to win.
Back then, empires didn't hold summits. They held swords, real power. Now we've got NATO meetings about gender-neutral tanks and feelings. Total downgrade. Sad.
So now we've covered how Trump sees the world. Everything's transaction. Everyone's either a freeloader or a rival. So why is he obsessed with Greenland? Well, it's about national security and Arctic dominance. And Vice President J.D. Vance has already flown to Greenland twice this year. This isn't just Trump talking big, it's an actual foreign policy move.
I didn't fly to Greenland twice for diplomacy. I flew because I heard the ice makes the couches tighter.
But here's the plot twist. This isn't new. The US has been eyeing Greenland for over a century. Back in 1946, President Harry Truman offered Denmark $100 million in gold. That's about $1.6 billion today adjusted for inflation. And Denmark said,
"How about no? I am keeping this deal for when Trump comes to power some 80 years later."
And in 1867, just after the US bought Alaska, Secretary of State William H. Seward wanted Greenland and Iceland. No formal offer was submitted, but his office was gathering intel. Why? Same reason. If you control the Arctic, you control the future.
You know, folks, Greenland is all snow and Iceland is actually green. Yeah, I was surprised too. Very misleading. Somebody should fix that. Maybe me. Maybe we call Greenland Trumpland and Iceland Mini Trumpland. What do you think, guys? I don't know. Just an idea. A beautiful idea.
So during the Cold War, the US built the Thule Air Base under a 1951 deal, making Greenland a key military outpost. So what makes Greenland a big deal? Well, it's sitting on rare earth minerals. Ton of them. Also, it's a northern surveillance hotspot, ideal for keeping an eye on Russian military moves over the Arctic. And it's smack in the middle of future Arctic shipping lanes. As climate change melts ice caps, new shortcut routes are opening up, connecting Asia, Europe, and North America. Whoever controls Greenland would control that future. Plus, Greenland's minerals could help the US cut its dependence on China. And with Russia and China ramping up Arctic activity, the US wants in hard. That's why Trump has called it just a big real estate deal. But political psychologist Dr. Justin Frank, in his book Trump on the Couch Inside the Mind of the President, says it goes deeper. For Trump, owning things equals power, which aligns with what we explained earlier. To him, Greenland isn't just ice, it's leverage, legacy, and dominance. There's just one problem though. Greenland isn't for sale, and you can just invade your allies. In 2025, Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen said it plain and simple.
"We are not for sale.
Which of course is politicians speak for.
We're not a cheap but offer the right price and we'll talk."
And after J.D. Vance claimed Denmark had neglected Greenland's potential and hinted the US could do better, let's just say Copenhagen and Nuuk were not amused.
I want to reiterate that if you want a you gotta pay up front.
The Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, said it bluntly. Seizing Greenland would be worse than a bad deal. The US can secure its Arctic interests through cooperation and existing military presence. So basically, the US doesn't need to buy or invade the island to play the game. The US already runs Thule Air Base, already has economic ties, and could deepen military cooperation without planting a flag. So yeah, Trump may keep pushing, but this is less about actual conquest and more about symbolism. To Trump, Greenland represents control. To everyone else,
yeah, he can go fuck himself.
So will he use force to take it? Pentagon would say,
absolutely not. Definitely not. No plans. Zero. Nada.
I really hope what you just said doesn't age like milk. Also, while I'm still here, please like and subscribe. This channel needs all the support it can get for more videos like this. And I swear, Brain of Salt is making me say this, because honestly, I have bigger problems.
Now that we've covered Greenland, why is he obsessed with Panama? So in March 2025, a US company, BlackRock, yes, the Wall Street giant, secured control of 2 ports on either side of the Panama Canal. These ports were previously managed by CK Hutchison Holdings, a Hong Kong-based firm, aka the Chinese government in business casual. That's it. Not the canal, not the country, just the ports. While this was a private sector deal, Trump, in true Trump fashion, turned it into a full-blown US military flex. So in April 2025, he sent troops for joint training exercises to take back what America supposedly gave up. But did the US really give it up? Absolutely not. So back in 1977, President Jimmy Carter and Panama's Omar Torrijos signed a treaty to hand control of the canal back to Panama gradually over 22 years. By 1999, Panama had full sovereignty. This wasn't some shady giveaway. It was a legit Senate-ratified deal meant to fix decades of tension and restore Panamanian sovereignty. So why's Trump mad? Well, part nostalgia, part ego.
We also kicked his name off a luxury tower in 2018, and that made him so mad.
And now I have to deal with that.
Fiona Hill, Trump's former Russia advisor, calls it classic Trump. He's not into systems, just bold moves that sound powerful. So what now? Well, Trump's talk about taking back the canal isn't just talk anymore. But let's be clear. For now, the canal is still 100% under Panamanian control, and their leaders made that clear fast. Could the US take it by force? I mean, of course. But the Panama Canal handles roughly 5% of global trade. Any disruption would wreck shipping across the Americas and Asia, skyrocket insurance costs, shake up markets for fuel, grain, and goods, and overload backup routes like the Suez and Arctic passages. So in other words,
Bring it on! I'll cripple the world economy faster than Trump's crippling the American one. Invade me and watch the planet cry into its overpriced grain and canceled Amazon orders.
Trump is chasing influence through actual military deployments. But a full-blown takeover? Still a hard no from geography, economics, and Panama's bullied government.
And again, I really hope this doesn't age like milk.
Okay, 2 down, 1 to go. And third time's the charm, right? So why does Trump keep saying Canada should be the 51st state?
No, don't make me the 51st state. Go make Canada the 51st state. Dejo.
Once again, it fits his whole thing. Control, 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 and zero cooperation. Also, he treats Canada like the upstairs neighbor who plays drums at 2 a.m. But Canadians? Yeah, they've got their elbows up. Recent polls say it out loud and clear. Only 10 to 11% of Canadians want closer ties to the US, and 77% flat out reject joining it. The message? Completely bipartisan. Former PM Justin Trudeau said,
"Not a snowball's chance in hell."
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said,
"Never happening."
And now Prime Minister Mark Carney is saying,
"The era of deep economic security and military ties between Canada and the United States is over."
What that actually means is,
you and your bald eagle.
So Canadians doubled down. Movements like Elbows Up and Buy Canadian are growing fast. Some stores are even pulling US brands off their shelves. Biographer Michael D'Antonio in his book, Never Enough, says this isn't policy, it's ego. Trump doesn't like being challenged. And when he is, he starts talking about annexation.
Fake news. Total hit piece. I don't annex because of ego. I annex because I can. It's called leadership. Napoleon did it. Alexander did it. Now it's my turn. Difference is, I have better hotels.
But what if he actually tried? Here's what would happen. 1. Canada's military, people, and politicians would fight back. And trust me, they would hold their own. 2. NATO implodes and US allies turn on USA. 3. $700 billion in trade nuked and markets crash. And 4. The courts step in and Congress revolts. Well, maybe not Schumer.
I look like a man who's been stuck in a CVS trying to return a prescription for 20 years.
So, what do you think? Will Trump actually try to annex Canada, invade Panama, or buy Greenland? Or will he hit a wall of resistance from American institutions like the Pentagon? Is this the future of US foreign policy with its alliances completely broken? Or could it all be repaired the moment he leaves office? And finally, is this geopolitical strategy or just the world's most dangerous game of Monopoly? Please let us know what you think in the comments.